All right, everyone. It was really funny the other day because people were pretending that Trump had conceded. He actually hasn't. But now is the time to prepare for what is increasingly presumptively the likelihood that Biden is successfully rigged into place by the Soroses and Kissingers of the world. Now, we've already seen how a Beijing Biden presidency is going to operate. We can already tell. Number one, we can look at the sort of people he's surrounding himself with, and that's usually a pretty good indicator of how a president is going to act. By the way, the left should be more concerned, arguably, than the fucking MAGA hat wearers at that point. Looking at Rahm Emanuel, of all people. Joe Biden, actually, think about this. Clear your mind for a moment and just cerebrally just try to absorb the gravity of a situation where a person whose party includes such names as Elon Omar and AOC thought that Rahm Emanuel would be able to sneak by into a trade representative slot. This dude's nuts. So keeping in mind that Biden is literally demented and has a long track record of corruption, we can sort of guess what he's going to do based on the things that he's saying now. For instance, amnesty for 11 million illegals was not necessarily a big thing during the campaign because you don't want to piss off some of the Bernie quasi-union progressives. So, like, imagine that Biden had said, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to attempt to legalize 11 million illegal immigrants in the first 100 days of office. Well, he would have lost Pennsylvania handily at that point. It wouldn't have gone over well in Michigan. Wouldn't have gone over well in any of those competitive states. And as far as Florida goes, of course, he lost that considerably because Bernie Sanders pissed off the Cuban population by sucking off Fidel Castro and his ideology. But we know we can get an idea of how he's going to govern. He's left the New Green Deal environmental bullshit behind. He's going to stab the left in the back on that. This is all assuming that he gets in there. And again, you don't have a concession yet. You don't have a final pending SCOTUS case. The electors haven't voted yet, but you've only got a couple of weeks till that happens. That's basically the time you've got left, unless the clock is run out and state representative functions kick in. We'll see what happens. My advice to everyone, number one, is if you don't have a stock of food, you have Biden's main COVID advisor. Biden swears he's not going to do this if he gets in there. He swears that this is not even on the table. His advisor has openly proclaimed that they are optioning a 4 to 6 week entire national shutdown. Basically with a couple of months of soft communism following up to prevent the economy from absolutely giving up its last ghost and fucking collapsing outright. This is something that has been openly spoken of by his COVID advisor, his main dude on coronavirus. If that happens, the economy will begin to flatline. Business confidence will be severely reduced. It will cause political and social chaos, and that could become dangerous. Much like at the outset of COVID, long before it was declared a pandemic by the lamestream media. In fact, back when the Democrats were poo-pooing it and saying, oh, no, you don't need a mask, go party in Chinatown, like Fauci, Pelosi, Biden himself calling travel restrictions xenophobic even at the end of February, by the way, while thousands of people were already getting sick and dying. I encourage people at the time to have a few weeks supply of basic goods on hand. By the way, you can get those big 10-gallon drums of water and stuff like that. Water's important, keeping that in mind. If you do have the money to invest in a solar array and a hot plate and a space heater, stuff like that, if you have the ability to have a functional existence even if the lights go out, so to speak, your head over heels above most of the population. Most people don't have any money in hand. I realize that prepping is difficult because a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. If you can squirrel away $50 in the meantime, $50 will buy a lot of food if you're not looking for fancy shit. Staple grains, rice and shit like that. It may not be the tastiest thing. Fucking make sure to get some of that, Morton's salt, iodized of course, in case of nuclear war, I suppose. Get some salt, some rice, maybe get some eggs. They store an intermediate length of time if they're wax coated. Some canned meat, some cheap shit, tuna salad or whatever, peanut butter and crackers. Just so that you can have actual food, because if you're not able to go to the grocery store for an extended period, look, in some states they're closing down grocery stores already. They're not even fucking waiting. What was it? I can't remember the state. Someone sent me a news tip earlier that there was some state there that closed down dozens of grocery stores because of health emergency sort of activism there. in New Mexico, I think it was. There are lines up the ass in Texas. It's funny because Bernie now all of a sudden he doesn't like bread lines. Only they're capitalistic bread lines. They're people prepping for an economic depression. They're prepping for a lockdown. It's funny when they try to say, "Oh, Trump's America, the economy is flatlining, people are starving." No, they're gaining food beforehand. You'll notice how many pickup trucks are in those lines. There's a little bit of a demographic commonality in those bread lines, so-called. They're not starving. They're trying to make sure they don't starve if Joe Biden fucks the economy up the ass, as he has claimed openly multiple times prior to this week that he intended to do. I suggest that. I suggest that if you do not own a firearm, if you do not have ammunition, you get them. If we enter a depression, I hate to tell you this, but people on the margins of the suburbs may end up hunting squirrels in order to have a little bit of meat on the table. No, believe it or not, the fact that we're in a technological age, everything's different now. The music plays forever. Dude, people in the 1920s, before the nuclear era, the pinnacle of civilization that we had achieved. In medicine and in technology, electrification and Art Deco and all the wonderful skyscrapers going up, people thought it was a new paradigm and that we were slowly wiping out poverty. There's no reason anyone should go without food or without work. We'll be able to take care of everything. Oh, automation is so... Dude, that was 100 fucking years ago, using steam shovels and shit like that. The level of efficiency was an order of magnitude lower. I'm telling you this. There is no fundamental reason why it's impossible for the world to undergo not a great reset, but a great collapse. Of course it can happen. People who saw it coming, people who realized, hey, this might be speculation-driven and fucking phony, which much of the growth you see around you actually is. It's basically a facade. If the inside rots away and it all comes crashing down, you could have an intergenerational depression. It'd be easy. 5 to 10 years would be a good guess. Well, it'd be good to have some food on hand and maybe a .22 rifle or something. Probably be a good idea. Get more efficient. Learn more skills. It's cheaper to grow and cook your own food, by and large, if you're capable of doing that, if you have any land at all. If you have a little eighth of an acre suburban city lot, you can grow a huge amount of food there. You do realize that you could have fucking raise chickens if you wanted to. You're probably not planting in a cornfield, but you can have a nice kitchen garden. You can grow your own onions. You can grow a couple of rows of potatoes. You can certainly grow herbs to make your food tastier, since you'll probably be surviving on staple grains by and large. Grains and warm water. It's possible for these things to happen, and even if you think it's unlikely, like let's say you think, well, maybe there'll be a recession, but it'll be like sort of like the 2000s or something. Okay. Well, the prices go up, wages go down, unemployment ticks upwards, there's a lot of stress. People, if you're doing rural living sort of stuff, or at least like suburban prepping, you'll be better off than your neighbors. Learn how to can food. It's not even that difficult. It doesn't require that many supplies. Basic canning set, it's not that expensive. And again, if you can hook up a solar cell or two and get a hot plate and something like that, get a couple of space heaters, and your heating bill goes down. Maybe you've got a little bit of money saved up and you're like, well, times are going to get tougher. Yeah, maybe get more efficient windows. Put an extra layer of insulation in your attic or something like that. You're in a hot climate like Texas, of course, probably not necessary. Get the solar cells to run your air conditioner 24/7, 364 days out of the year. That one day that it dips below 60 degrees, a terrible time. Everyone thinks it's Armageddon down there. You should prepare now. Don't wait until January 20th. Don't assume, even if you're optimistic, and I still think, there is a chance that SCOTUS steps in and, in my opinion, does the right thing and prevents Beijing Biden from taking power. The Supreme Court is capable of saving the Republic a great deal of problems right now, as well as saving its own decorum, as well as preventing mass economic catastrophe. It's capable of doing this. They are generally reluctant to step in even for very meaningful things. If they don't feel that a threshold has been raised, achieved as far as the affidavits and other evidence that's being submitted before the courts, they won't even take the fucking case. And the idea that faithless electors are going to save you is the long shot of all long shots. The Democrats thought that in 2016. What happened? It didn't occur. The thing is this. If Beijing Biden gets in there, it's an asterisk presidency. because we will not have had closure about the election. That everyone in the mainstream claims that it's ironclad, it's the fairest election ever, and all that hyperbolic nonsense that they know is bullshit, and I think some of their readers and viewers do too. But they're not willing to investigate. They won't even talk about the affidavits that have been filed. They'll just say, well, that's not evidence of anything. They won't even read them because it's propaganda. Just operate from the assumption in the coming weeks that Biden is going to get in. Your taxes will rise. That is a certainty. He will attempt to grant amnesty, although I have a feeling that it's a half-assed attempt because the Democrats like slavery. It makes them a lot of money, so why the hell would they want to have to pay people fair wages? They want there to be illegal immigrants in the U.S. Makes them a huge amount of money. All the corporations that donated to Biden, it's kind of self-explanatory. He's surrounding himself with neoliberals and war hawks. You can expect war, almost certainly. When he says America is back, basically that's, hey, we're going to wag our dick around in the third world again and bomb more orphans. And this is basically what Biden wants to do. He's not going to shrink the military budget. He's not going to be a progressive. AOC and Ilhan Omar and all these others will be shoved to the fucking side by him the second that he's in office if he gets there. It'll be an Obama-style presidency. Basically, Obama will be back in office, essentially, which is essentially why Trump won, by the way, in the first place. Now, people have a very short attention span and a very short memory when it comes to political history. But you should assume there will be an economic downturn. Business confidence being reduced alone. The idea of signing off on the TPP so that foreign companies can come in and exploit U.S. workers more easily, that's going to cause economic problems. Not for the 1%ers, but for everybody else. We'll be paying more. Your taxes will go up. The cost of living will rise. You should prepare accordingly. That's about all. Peace out.